Head back home, you penniless, unemployed hag. What's the scam with you tagging along on this trip, Gretties? My disappointment in my family was as predictable as ever. Well, I'll give them a taste of their own medicine. While reveling in some solitary moments away from their company, I resolved to take matters into my own hands. Just then, my brother's voice chimed in on the phone. Hey, what's going on, sis? What have you done? My name's Lucy, a 30-year-old office worker, and for the past 3 years, I've been with someone special, Alan. He's a genuine gentleman who not only treats me with kindness but deeply cares for me. We first crossed paths in college, he was my senior, and I often turned to him for advice on work or personal matters. He always listened intently and offered wise counsel. As we transitioned into the working world, we kept in touch, meeting regularly. Then, one day, he confessed his feelings and we embarked on a relationship. Since then, our journey together has been blissful, filled with shared moments and dreams of a future together. Then came the day when Alan popped the question, Lucy, I want to spend the rest of my life by your side. Will you marry me? Yes, we both agreed, and the decision to tie the knot was made. Swiftly, we shared the news with our families. Nice to meet you, I'm Lucy, I introduced myself warmly. Oh, so we finally meet. Alan has talked a lot about you, his mother exclaimed with a smile. You're just as lovely as he described, I replied, feeling a hint of shyness. Don't sell yourself short. Come on in, make yourself at home, she insisted kindly. Thank you, I said gratefully. Alan had lost his father a few years back, leaving only his mother in the family home. I was anxious about meeting her, but she greeted me with open arms. Over tea and snacks, we engaged in a delightful conversation, easing any worries I had about fitting into the family. Lucy, you're truly a remarkable person. I couldn't be happier that you'll be joining Alan as his wife, my mother-in-law to be praised, her kind words catching me off guard and leaving me slightly flustered. I'm eagerly anticipating your wedding. Take care, Mom. Thank you for today, I replied, bidding her farewell. As our meeting concluded on a positive note, a sense of relief washed over me. However, the thought of introducing Alan to my own family immediately dampened my spirits. The truth is, I've never been particularly fond of my own family. The root of this issue stems from the way my parents treated me throughout my childhood. Both of them were star athletes. Mom excelled in track and field, while Dad dominated the soccer field. Their athletic prowess earned them scholarships to college, and naturally, they expected the same level of athletic achievement from their children. Unfortunately, I didn't possess the same athletic talents they did. Despite their efforts to nurture my sporting abilities by enrolling me in various activities like basketball, swimming, table tennis, and even figure skating, I remained average at best. It was evident that my parents were disappointed by my lack of athletic prowess. Then came the arrival of my younger brother Kyle. With aspirations of having a son, my parents eagerly enrolled him in sports as well. It turned out that Kyle had a natural talent for soccer. When the local youth coach praised his abilities, my parents were overjoyed and redirected all their attention towards him. Kyle is truly exceptional. He's something truly special, they would gush, their words implying my inadequacy. It seemed as though it was nothing more than a disappointment in their eyes. They lavished Kyle with attention and neglected me, even as I progressed through middle and high school. While I dedicated myself to my studies and excelled academically, they dismissed my achievements, claiming that academic success held no real value. When I expressed my desire to attend college, they brushed it off, citing financial constraints, so I relied on scholarships to pursue higher education. Meanwhile, Kyle continued to thrive in soccer, earning himself a scholarship to high school. My parents couldn't contain their excitement. He's destined for greatness. We'll do anything for Kyle. Growing up in the shadow of such adoration, Kyle began to look down on me. Lucy, you're such a failure and a curse. Even Mom and Dad can't stand you. If you weren't around, they could invest all their resources in me. You're just dragging us down. Kyle's hurtful words were a regular occurrence, and my parents never intervened to correct him. You truly are a burden. Spending money on you is just a waste, echoed their sentiment, further crushing my already fragile self-esteem. Despite managing to secure admission to a decent college and landing a job at a reputable company, my sense of worth remained battered, perpetually overshadowed by Kyle's accomplishments. He effortlessly earned yet another soccer scholarship for college, and my parents beamed with pride. Meanwhile, I was struggling to make ends meet. burdened by student loan debt. While Kyle continued to bask in the warmth of parental affection, living at home, pursuing his education, and indulging in soccer, the road to professional success proved arduous. Eventually, Kyle's dreams of going pro fizzled out, and he had to settle for a regular job. Yet my parents remained steadfast in their pride, and Kyle continued to enjoy the comforts of home, content in his own bubble. Every Christmas, when our extended family gathered, my parents insisted on my presence. They would introduce me as their disappointing daughter while lavishing praise upon Kyle, their pride and joy. But Lucy is thriving, she has a stable job, relatives would interject. No, no, Kyle is far more impressive, my parents would dismiss their comments, leaving me disheartened each time. It became a pattern. My family's consistent favoritism towards my brother, their disregard for my achievements. Eventually, I stopped attending these gatherings altogether. I avoided family events and hesitated to introduce my fiancé to them, knowing how they would treat him. Despite being aware of my family's attitude, Alan insisted on a family meeting. So, after years of avoidance, I made the decision to return home. I called my mom to share the news. What? No, how have you been? Or it's been too long. Her response was devoid of warmth or interest, a stark reminder of how little I mattered in their eyes, even after all this time. It's been years since you reached out. What's the matter now? My mom's voice came through, devoid of any warmth. Well, I'm getting married, and my fiancé wants to meet the family. Could we arrange that? I stuttered nervously. Why bother with all that hassle? Just tie the knot and be done with it. Her response was disappointingly cold. Just as I was processing her words, Kyle's voice cut in. Mom, who are you talking to? He inquired. It's Lucy. She's talking about having a family meeting because she's getting married. Really? That sounds amusing. I'd love to see who this guy is. Let's invite them. Kyle chimed in, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Fine, if Kyle insists, my mom relented, her tone lacking enthusiasm. All right, you can come for the meeting, she added, a hint of obligation in her voice. After overhearing their conversation, I felt a whirlwind of emotions. Despite their lukewarm invitation, I reasoned that they did express some desire to see me. So, on my next day off, I made the decision to visit my family. Just be prepared for the worst. They might not treat you well, Alan cautioned me. Yeah, I understand. But from that brief phone call, it sounds like you have quite the family dynamic, I replied, trying to lighten the mood. This isn't a laughing matter. I've had my fair share of struggles with them, Alan reminded me solemnly. I insist on meeting your family before we tie the knot. We'll keep it brief, all right? I urged Alan as we drove to my family home. Upon arriving, we rang the doorbell, but no one answered. Resorting to my key, I let us in. As we entered the living room, I was taken aback to find my family seated on the sofa. What surprised me even more was the presence of an unfamiliar young woman. Deciding to start with a simple greeting, I spoke up. Hello, everyone. It's been a while. This is my fiancé, Alan. Pleasure to meet you all. I introduced Alan, prompting my family's gaze to shift towards him. Well, I half expected Lucy to bring home some dull, unremarkable fellow, but you seem all right, Kyle remarked crudely, eliciting an awkward chuckle from Alan. Kyle, who's the woman next to you? Your girlfriend? I couldn't hide my irritation at Kyle for bringing an unexpected guest to our pre-planned family gathering. But Kyle's response caught me off guard. She's my wife, Mia. We've been living here since we got married. He dropped the bombshell casually. What? Wife? My eyes widened in disbelief. You got married. I was stunned, the news hitting me like a ton of bricks. Yeah, last year, Kyle confirmed, seemingly unfazed. I was left speechless, grappling with the realization that my own brother had tied the knot without even informing me. As I tried to process this revelation, my raised voice drew Mom's annoyance. You're too nosy. It's none of your business if Kyle got married, she snapped, brushing off my concerns. I felt a mix of hurt and betrayal. Dad then turned his attention to Alan, ignoring the tension in the room. I'm not particularly interested, but what do you do for a living? You're marrying Lucy, so it can't be anything impressive, but let's hear it, he remarked bluntly. Alan's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with my rising anger. As I clenched my fists in frustration, Alan gently restrained me, reminding me not to let their words get to me. I apologize for any rudeness. Here's my card, Alan said, extending his business card to Dad, who initially regarded it with little interest. However, his expression quickly changed. "You're a lawyer," Dad exclaimed, his eyes widening in surprise. Mom, Kyle, and Maya shared in the astonishment. "Wow, that's impressive. Elizabeth, prepare some tea for our guests, would you?" "I'll handle it," Dad declared, suddenly hospitable. "A real lawyer, how fascinating," he mused as the atmosphere in the room shifted. Alan couldn't help but be taken aback by the sudden change in attitude. "I never would have guessed Lucy's fiancé was a lawyer," Kyle remarked, echoing the sentiment shared by the others. "Does that mean you make a lot of money? Maybe you can buy me a designer bag for my birthday," Maya chimed in, her audacity leaving me speechless. It was astonishing that she would make such requests to Alan upon their first meeting. Nevertheless, Alan responded with a wry smile, handling the situation with grace. "Alan, you really shouldn't be saying such things to my fiancé, especially on our first meeting," Alan responded with a wry smile, addressing me as bold comments. "We're going to be family, so let's try to get along," Mom interjected, attempting to diffuse the tension. However, I couldn't shake off the sense of unease that lingered within me. As the families gathered for a joint meeting, both my parents and Kyle's family exhibited an unusual level of enthusiasm. Even my mother-in-law appeared somewhat taken aback by their fervor. Following the meeting, I took the opportunity to apologize to my mother-in-law, only to discover that Alan had already informed her of the incident. "Don't worry about it," she reassured me with a smile, instantly alleviating my concerns. It was a moment of relief, reaffirming my belief in her genuine kindness. 2 months later, Alan and I exchanged vows, with my previously indifferent family in attendance. Surprisingly, after the wedding, they began reaching out to us more frequently. "Why don't you and Alan join us for dinner sometime? We know this wonderful restaurant," Mom's voice would chirp over the phone. I couldn't shake the suspicion that they were eyeing Alan's money, given his profession as a lawyer. But I wasn't about to fall for their scheme. "We're tied up at the moment, so we can't commit to anything right now. We'll keep you posted when we're available," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "Sure, we'll be eagerly waiting. We're flexible with our schedule," Mom responded, her enthusiasm palpable. I felt a surge of disgust. It was clear they were more interested in exploiting my marriage to a wealthy man than in building a genuine relationship with me. After maintaining distance for some time, Mom called again a few months later. "When are you and Alan going to join us for dinner, Lucy?" Mom's voice dripped with false sweetness, and I could practically feel her desperation through the phone. "Sorry, Mom, we're pretty swamped," I replied curtly, already contemplating ending the call. But before I could, she dropped a bombshell. "We're planning to celebrate my half-century birthday," she continued, her tone shifting slightly. "After all, your father and I did see you through high school. It wouldn't hurt to show a little gratitude." I could feel her frustration mounting, expecting us to start treating her differently. But deep down, I couldn't deny that she had a point. After all, my parents had supported me until I graduated college, even if I'd paid my own way through it. Perhaps it was time to show a bit of gratitude. As Mom hit the big 5-0, I relented. "All right, count us in for the celebration." "Really? That's fantastic. We're actually planning a family trip, so it'll be perfect for all of us to spend time together." "A family vacation, huh?" I mused, not entirely enthusiastic about the idea. But then I realized it could be an opportunity to enjoy some quality time alone with Alan. When I brought up the idea to Alan, he was on board, so we decided to join the family trip. Mom's reaction was pure excitement. "Could you handle the reservations? I'll send you a bunch of URLs for hotels and plans," Mom requested eagerly. "What?" Mom inundated me with URLs, all pointing to luxury hotels and high-end restaurants. I couldn't help but feel irked by their extravagance, but I reasoned that this might be a one-time indulgence. Reluctantly, I checked out the links and proceeded with the bookings. When I called Mom to confirm the reservations, her joy was palpable. "I can't wait, thank you so much," she exclaimed, brimming with excitement. At last, the long-awaited day for our half-century family vacation had arrived, and our destination was sunny Florida. Excitement filled the air as we boarded the plane, with everyone in high spirits. Both my parents and Kyle, along with his partner, seemed to be thoroughly enjoying themselves. On touchdown, Alan and I made it clear to the family that we intended to explore on our own. Despite their attempts to persuade us to join them for souvenir shopping, we managed to gracefully evade the invitation and set off on our own adventure. We arranged to reconvene for dinner at the upscale restaurant we had reserved. As Alan and I wandered the city, taking in its sights and sounds, time seemed to slip away effortlessly. Eventually, we made our way to the fancy restaurant where our parents and Kyle's family were already waiting. "You're late," Mom chimed in sharply as we approached. "Well, we still have 10 minutes until our reservation," Alan calmly pointed out. Suddenly, their demeanor shifted. "We were talking to you," Mom retorted curtly. "What? Our business is with Alan, not you." Mom's words cut through the air, her tone sharp and dismissive. "Thank you for covering the expenses for this lavish dinner and hotel stay," Dad added, his gratitude directed solely towards Alan. Alan looked bewildered, while Kyle and the others turned their attention to me. "You're finished here, Lucy. You don't deserve any of this. You're nothing but a burden," Kyle spat out angrily. "What are you even talking about?" I tried to reason, but their voices rose in unison. "Get out of here, you jobless loser. You have no place on this trip," they berated me, their words dripping with disdain. Disgusted by my family's treatment, I realized their intentions to exclude me from the beginning. So this is how it's going to be, I thought to myself, feeling a surge of determination. "You'll regret this." Without another word, I leaned in close to Alan and whispered, "Fine, I'll leave now." Our parents and Kyle's family looked smug as they entered the restaurant with Alan, I remarked bitterly. Quickly, I made alternate arrangements. Thankfully, a decent hotel had a last-minute cancellation, so I secured a room and checked in. Settling into a cozy lounge with a picturesque view, I indulged in a cup of coffee to soothe my frayed nerves. It wasn't long before Kyle's call interrupted my moment of peace. "What did you do, Lucy?" "Alan's gone." Kyle's voice sounded frantic. "I have no idea. You know Alan, he's usually clueless but sharp when it counts," I replied, trying to keep my tone steady. "Sure, but this is different. I told him I'm staying at another hotel, so he should join me," Kyle explained. "Whenever you're kidding, Kyle," I retorted, feeling a surge of irritation. Kyle abruptly ended the call, leaving me to ponder the situation. Soon after, Alan appeared at my hotel, a mischievous grin adorning his face. "Did it work? Were they mad?" I asked eagerly. "Yeah, they were furious. They're hopeless," Alan replied, shaking his head in disbelief. "You were going to foot the bill, and they still acted like that," I exclaimed incredulously. Even Alan was taken aback by their behavior. We brushed it off and decided to treat ourselves to a meal at the hotel's fancy restaurant. Returning to our room, we unwound and woke up feeling rejuvenated the next morning. Eager to explore, we embarked on a sightseeing adventure. Wanting to avoid traveling back with our parents, we opted to change our flight to an earlier one. While waiting for our flight, Mom's furious voice pierced through the phone. "Hello, what's going on? I thought you didn't require my assistance," I answered calmly. "What's the meaning of this? Why is the hotel bill due at checkout?" Mom demanded angrily. "That's how I made the reservation. Don't joke around," I replied, trying to maintain composure. "We can't afford $11,000 per person. If you're enjoying luxury, you should cover the expenses. Unless you want to end up in jail," Mom snapped back. "Stop it. You're so arrogant for a parasite," she spat out before ending the call. "You're the one who needs to stop. I had every intention of covering all the expenses for this trip as a gesture of gratitude for all the years you've supported me. But you ruined it by kicking me out," I asserted firmly. "Wait, you were going to pay for everything." Mom's voice wavered with disbelief. "That's exactly what I've been trying to tell you," I affirmed. "There's no way you could afford something like that," Mom countered skeptically. "Don't underestimate me. I work at the headquarters of a major corporation and hold a managerial position. I'd earn significantly more than Dad and have substantial savings," I explained calmly. "Really?" Mom was left speechless, but at that point, it hardly mattered. I had made my decision to sever ties completely. "I have to board the plane now, so goodbye," I stated, ending the conversation abruptly. "Wait, hold on," I muttered before swiftly ending the call and blocking all their numbers. Fortunately, they were unaware of our address or workplaces, preventing any unexpected visits. However, my Nave family made a reckless move by storming the law firm listed on Alan's business card. Their disruptive behavior led to chaos, with Kyle even causing damage to office equipment, resulting in their arrest. After indulging in an extravagant family trip, They now face the consequences of their actions, hefty damages and fines to pay. Dad and Kyle were subsequently terminated from their jobs, and now they all struggle to make ends meet with part-time employment, trapped in a cycle of poverty and constant conflict. It's a stark lesson in reaping what you sow. On the other hand, Alan and I continue to lead a contented life. I'm overjoyed to announce that I'm expecting, and we recently welcomed our beautiful daughter into the world, celebrating the momentous occasion with my supportive mother-in-law. Moving forward, I intend to cherish my true family, Alan, my mother-in-law, and our daughter, and embrace a life filled with happiness and fulfillment.